All right, you guys ready?
I'm ready. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right.
Anything I need to know?
Are you good? The dynamic duo is back, everyone. Two guys, coffee and business podcast.
Hey, it's a podcast, right?
Yeah.
I think this is part of the shit.
That's a little crazy though. Oh, it's too funny.
What did I agree to?
Right.
We got you this costume.
Didn't you have something on?
man's back.
Didn't you dress up like,
No, that would probably be for like the Halloween episode. You did the JB Pritzker.
Yeah.
We filmed that.
I found another JB Pritzker video we could spoof too.
you got a good JB Pritzker. Are you going for him as Halloween?
I could.
Oh, that would be good.
That'd be funny.
That would be good. All right, let's start seriously.
Yeah.
All right, welcome back, everyone. This is Two Guys Coffee and Business Podcast. My name is Michael Introvertolo, and I'm here with.
Tom Dorch.
And today we have Mr. Dynamics himself, I guess Mr. Solution Systems, Ken Sebahar. He's going to be answering some questions for us and things like that. You want to tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Yep. So I'm Ken Sebahar. I've been with Solution Systems for 17 years now. Started as a project manager, kind of worked my way up. I now oversee the operations for the whole company. Started off with an accounting degree from the University of Iowa. Go Hawks.
Cut that out.
And so decided when I got out of school that I would get an accounting job. Just so happens I got an accounting job at a company that develops accounting software. So I quickly started learning how it works, went out, got asked to do some training. The next thing I know, we hired a replacement accountant, and I was doing it full time.
Nice.
That's how it's
Transitioning fast.
Interesting. That's awesome though. I mean, every story starts somewhere. So I guess
So,
I'm just gonna go right into it. What is exactly ERP?
Sure. So, yep, a lot of people pretend like they know when someone says ERP, they just nod their head and say, yes, I understand.
Right.
But it's acronym for Enterprise Resource Planning, which is basically just a generic term to mean it's a comprehensive business management system. Typically, an ERP solution is for companies that distribute or manufacture products, so they have inventory, maybe warehouse management, sales, purchasing, as well as fully integrated financials. So it's kind of an all-in-one system to manage the entire business.
very nice.
The whole enterprise.
There you go. The whole enterprise, right, from soup to nuts.
Has it evolved much since you first started 17 years ago?
Back in the day, I think very few systems in the small to mid-market were full ERP solutions. There were, of course, the big players, SAP, Oracle, and so on, JD Edwards, that were these huge systems for large companies that could do all of that stuff. But someone that played in the small to mid-market typically couldn't get their hands around all that functionality. MRP in manufacturing can get pretty complex. Purchase planning, forecasting, all those things, it was difficult. So over the years, I think what's happened is a lot of those features and functionality have come down to the small to mid-market.
Yeah.
So, with the help of companies like Microsoft, so that small companies can get that same level of functionality that these large companies historically could get.
Which makes a lot of sense because one of the top pain points that we hear with prospects and things is ERP is just it's for bigger companies. It's too big. It's not for us.
Right.
So that's changing. It's definitely changing. Yeah. All right. So jump in here one more. So why would a company switch ERP systems?
Why would they change ERP systems? Typically, it's one of two things, one of two primary reasons. One, their current system is out of date. They're not getting the functionality that they need out of it. and they have no current upgrade path with that current software where they can easily move to a new version. So basically it would mean like a full re-implementation of the software, which would cost a lot of money. So at that point they decide, hey, we might as well see what else is out there, right? The other reason is they maybe have outgrown their current system, right? They started small, this functionality they had, they liked it, it worked well, but now they've increased the size, the number of users is a common one. A lot of systems, once you get to 20, 30, 50 users, some systems can't handle that. Right. So you have to upgrade for that scalability to do more. Or maybe they've added a new business or a new process, like manufacturing. Maybe they never manufactured before, but now they're manufacturing. So they've added a function or a process that their current software is not handling. I think those are primarily what we see.
Nice. Real nice.
Okay, so I guess what are some of the top reasons that you've seen people have switched to NAV?
So NAV was designed, I don't want to get into the whole history here, but as Navision back in the late 1990s. And part of the whole idea of the system was that it was designed to be tailored. So the structure of the database and the architecture made it very quick and very easy to make customizations in software. So why a company would go to NAV would be, well, one, of course, it's Microsoft. I think Microsoft puts $10 billion plus a year into their R&D, and a lot of that goes into their business applications, Office, email, which are all integrated together with Dynamics now. So when you combine all of that, the functionality that Microsoft brings to the table by having a fully integrated system, and the ability to easily customize the software to fit your needs, that's pretty compelling. They, most often what we see a lot of business is when we'll approach a company, a prospect, they're looking at software, and we'll get to the point where they'll say, we've looked at a lot of packages over the years and nobody has been able to show us how this works. And so what we'll do is we'll learn about that. We'll ask some questions, we'll learn about those requirements. Occasionally we'll write up a specification, we'll design the solution, and actually show them that solution functioning in Dynamics NAV.
Very nice.
So at that point, right, all of the stress of implementing this new system and knowing if that critical piece is going to work is gone.
Right.
We've showed it to them. It's working. We can take this code and we'll deploy this in your environment when we install it. So that's kind of just a little bit of how that flexible development environment allows us the system to be tailored and why customers,
Real nice.
why they choose that.
How do you say no to that?
Yeah, you can't, right? So over your past decade and a half plus of being at Solution Systems, you've obviously seen the introduction of the cloud into ERP systems and whatnot. What are your thoughts, your real thoughts, on whether or not the cloud is beneficial for people?
Sure. So, I think they're probably the earliest ERP software packages for the mid-market. Probably came around, I don't know, somewhere between 5 to 10 years ago.
Right.
I think 5 to 10 years ago, companies weren't ready for cloud ERP. Either due to just the technology at the time, meaning the performance, the availability of it with their internet connectivity, or other systems that they had that wouldn't be able to be used with a cloud app. There were all these reasons that it didn't make sense. And very few companies were taking it on in the small to mid-market area, especially with something as critical as your ERP solution, right? You need that, if your internet connection goes down and you need to be reporting production in your manufacturing shop or invoicing customers to get deliveries out the door today, right? That's critical.
Right.
You're shut down, right? I would say in the last 1 to 3 years, there's been a turn
Big turn.
where people are now they're able to rely on the internet, either just due to the availability of internet services, broadband, high-speed access, and the price point of that, right?
Sure.
So you don't have to spend $10,000 a month for a high-speed internet connection anymore,
Very
right?
true.
So that's a huge deal. Two, people have started using other systems on the cloud. So they're seeing that it works. So they've gotten comfortable maybe by using a non-critical app in the cloud, either in business or their personal life. So they see that it's reliable, that it works. So I think they've gained some trust. And then the third thing is that there are other apps and systems out there that integrate with cloud-based software. And it's more well deployed, it's better written, it's optimized, right?
Yeah.
Better. So there's all these things that have made it very viable.
And there's a lot of apps that people don't even realize that they're using that are cloud-based. Maybe
Right.
OneDrive from Microsoft, something like that, storage. It's all stored in the cloud.
Right. I mean, people have had, a Yahoo or Hotmail,
Yeah,
uh,
for ages.
Gmail, maybe not Gmail, but Hotmail account, right?
Yeah, right.
15, 20 years ago, I think, I had a Hotmail account. So, but it wasn't important. It was like my one of my
Yeah.
junk email accounts. So, okay, throw it on there. It's not important.
Right.
But today, it's kind of changed. It's people realize it's reliable and trustworthy. And lastly, people are working, in a decentralized way, right? So people work from home, work from different offices, work from wherever they are, a customer site. So when you have, let's say, 20 users on an ERP system, but 8 of them or 12 of them are not physically at the office, you're relying on the cloud anyway for all these people to access the system. Or a company that has 3 locations. Well, you can only physically have your server at one location.
Yeah.
So the other 2 locations are relying on the cloud. So why not just throw the whole system on the cloud and take advantage of all those benefits? And then it's just one more group that's relying on that.
Right. So it's kind of interesting because my generation, all we've ever known is the internet. And it's always been around. And so even when I was in like college and high school, our homework was on the internet. So, you log onto a website and all your classes are there. So it kind of makes me wonder, do you think that something as simple, or not as simple, but more complex, something as ERP will no longer have an on-premise offering?
Just my humble opinion, I think that there will always be a place for on-premise software. There are just people, and right, companies are made up of people who, for whatever reason, and some are very good reasons, they want it on-premise. I want a physical server installed here at my office with networked cables running to all my workstations, and know that either from a performance perspective, a reliability perspective, or a security perspective, they want that. And I think at some point, I think Microsoft understands that. There are several ERP packages out there that are cloud only, right? Microsoft's strategy is cloud first. So what that tells me is they understand that the trend is to the cloud. There's no denying that, I don't think. But they understand that there are businesses and companies based on their geographic location or whatever their requirements are, they need an on-premise solution. So with Dynamics, for example, Business Central is coming out soon. There's the default product that they're marketing is the Business Central running on the Microsoft Cloud. There will also be an on-premise version of that available. Because to give up that percentage share of the market today, I think would not
Big percentage.
probably be a good idea.
Right. Yeah, without the doubt. So, and then, so I'm gonna go on a limb here, I'm assuming you think that the cloud is having a positive impact on ERP?
Yeah, for sure, right? Because one, historically, implementing an ERP solution was a huge financial commitment, overall commitment for a company. Financially, from a risk standpoint, right? Is this gonna work? Are we gonna get this up and running? And so nowadays, most cloud-based solutions are subscription pricing. And they you can get the software running very quickly, right? Because you don't have to go out, purchase a physical server, wait 3 weeks for it to get delivered, install the operating system, get the software installed, get it deployed, right? All that goes away. We can have the software available for a new client within 48 hours. So we're in there now, and they're only paying for what they use, right? Or the number of users they use. So first of all, that risk, the barrier to switching systems has been reduced significantly. But maybe the bigger thing is, is it impacting ERP better, more now? I would say yeah, because you now have all these companies that are building cloud apps that integrate with Dynamics, right, and provide much better information and functionality than an on-premise solution could.
Yeah.
A simple example of that is sales tax. So, as everyone knows, sales tax has gotten very complex, and they've recently changed the rules where more and more people have to worry about sales tax.
Yeah.
Historically, the idea of figuring out the correct rate to charge a customer based on where you're shipping those goods or where the customer's located, and then going into your ERP and setting up all those sales tax setups to track all of that is very time consuming and difficult for a lot of, especially small to mid-sized companies to do. Enter the cloud. Now there are companies out there, multiple, that offer sales tax solutions that are cloud-based. So what they've done is they've created hooks into software applications like Dynamics. So even if you're running Dynamics on-premise, you still can subscribe to your cloud-based sales tax solution, and you immediately have every single one of 65,000 or 70,000 taxing jurisdictions and accurate setups at your disposal. So how cool is that? I set up a new customer. Oh, you're in Timbuktu, Arkansas,
No
or
problem.
hey, we'll set you up. Address verification, real time. Apply the correct sales tax area. Now I enter an order. I can trust that sales tax is getting calculated correctly, stored correctly, and now I can even leverage that cloud services sales tax filing. So the additional services then that you can get, right, can even offload someone internally having to spend 20 hours or however many hours a month filling out sales tax reports.
Jeez. Definitely positive.
Yeah.
Another, if I may.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Keep going, Ren.
Another very significant improvement around this is credit cards. 10 years ago, it was not, what do you call it, PCI compliant. You were not compliant if you stored a customer's credit card information in your system.
Right.
But guess what? People did it, right? Because the customer would say, can you just hold on to my information? Because I'm gonna call again, and next time I call with an order, I don't wanna have to give this to you again, so please hold on to it. Well, they're your customer, of course. I wanna provide good customer service. I'm gonna hold on to your credit card number for you. So I'm gonna store it somewhere. Maybe it's encrypted, maybe it's not. Now, again, whether I'm running a cloud-based ERP or an on-premise ERP, I can subscribe, I can use a cloud-based credit card solution that integrates with Dynamics. So now I enter that credit card information. It doesn't save it even in my database. It creates tokens. It uses those tokens to charge the cards. So it's completely secure. Customers are completely protected, and their customers are secure. Those credit card account numbers and information remain secure. So those are just a few examples of where the cloud, I think, has really improved a company's ERP solution.
Interesting. So there's also been a lot of talk, I guess, with the cloud, these multi-tenant environments. Okay, what's kind of meant by that?
So demystify multi-tenant.
Yeah. What's the mystery of that?
So, let's start about first what a traditional ERP solution looks like. So typically, in a traditional environment, on-premise, let's say, you have a server. On that server is one database. Running on that database is your business. You're running your company on that one database. Now, there's also business logic that controls how that system works, right? What functionality is available. In a multi-tenant environment, what you have is one structure with one set of business logic, and multiple companies or databases can run against that. So it's perfect for the cloud environment, because in a cloud environment, you have a developer who's developing an application. They're writing that structure of what data they're going to store in there, what business logic and processes and reports are going to be available to all those people. And they say, you know what? I want to make this system available to all these people. But as people start buying it and using it, I need an easy way to distribute updates. As things change, as we create improvements to those. So instead of deploying, let's say, 100 or however many customers you have, databases and sets of code, you create a single set of code and structure, and then I'll create it so that you have multiple sets of data that are all connecting to that. So I update my code, my business logic once, I add a new field to track some new information in the database. I deploy it one time. All of those companies and businesses now get those changes and those updates. So that model is perfect for a cloud environment. There are such things as on-premise multi-tenant solutions. So you could also, in theory, have an environment where you had one set of code and maybe some different databases or solutions. But for the most part, the reason you're doing that is because you've got different people in different locations or whatever, different groups, and you want to keep those independent. So they access it through the cloud or through a browser to access it.
Nice.
So that's where Microsoft is kind of going with the Business Central product.
So, then what are your thoughts on Business Central compared to NAM, I guess?
Sure. Well, yeah, so
kind of almost wanted to say too.
So Business Central, right, so what they've done is, right, they've taken NAV and they have effectively migrated it to a cloud platform. So now Business Central is effectively NAV. Same functionality, reports, it's all there, but they've taken it and now they're hosting it on the Microsoft Cloud in a multi-tenant environment.
Right.
Good line of questioning.
I wonder if we thought that out.
So, right, because now it's hosted on Microsoft's cloud, they need to be able to make updates to the system for all these people. So when you create your Business Central environment, you're creating that as a tenant on the Microsoft cloud. When they make updates once a month or however often those updates need to get applied, they distribute those updates to all the Business Central customers at once. And then you are continuously using the latest and greatest version. So that's the key benefit, right? Why is running a cloud solution beneficial? It's because you never get to the point where you're running on outdated software. You never get to the point where you can no longer upgrade your software.
Yeah, right. So, maybe you don't know the answer to this, maybe you do. When Microsoft deploys the updates on the multi-tenant situation, whatever you want to call it, is it individually done one by one by one by one, or do they get deployed all at once? Any idea?
Yes, they did some testing already and run some metrics on that and how they do that. So that, because there are many deployments of Business Central currently, and they're currently doing updates. And yeah, they have a process that they go through. I don't know the inner workings of that process, but effectively they are updating those one at a time. And on average, they've said through tests that it takes approximately 30 seconds
Wow.
to run the updates per tenant.
Wow.
That's interesting.
Fast.
Yeah, that's really fast.
Almost as fast as I can run to a pizza store.
Almost.
Almost.
So I guess I mean, how would someone pick between the two? I mean, how do you pick between NAV and Business Central, or cloud and on-premise?
Right. You know, I wish there was a magic bullet answer. You know, here's the answer. There's a lot of factors that go into it. I think you have to look at what are the requirements, what's the real-time nature of the business and transactions that have to go into it, what are the performance requirements, right? Because there's pros and cons to everything. In a multi-tenant environment, we just talked about some of the benefits of being on the cloud. But on the other hand, you don't have as much control over the infrastructure, right? Microsoft is managing the database, right? There's redundancy, there's backups, there's all that stuff. But in terms of the performance of it, it is what it is, right? Maybe you contact Microsoft, have them increase some processing power, or whatever. In an on-premise environment, the customer has complete control over the horsepower on their server. How many CPUs do you need? What types of processors? How much RAM do you want allocated to make sure that system's humming? You know, also controls of the back end. In an on-premise solution, you know, a business would have this running on a SQL Server database, NAV for example, or on-premise Business Central. It'd be running on a SQL Server. If you have a SQL Server developer or other applications in SQL Server that you want to integrate with NAV or Business Central, maybe you need to be on-premise, because the tools and the methods that you might want to use to integrate to a multi-tenant environment are going to be limited. You're not going to have the same options as you would have if you're on-premise. Basically, an on-premise server, right, you have a local administrator, you have full control over anything you want to do, right? Within limitations of NAV's standard business logic, of course.
Right.
But in terms of integrations, customization capabilities, other third-party tools you might want to use with it, you can really accomplish anything you want. In a cloud multi-tenant environment, you have to be, you're cognizant or right, aware of what can you do in terms of connecting to that database and integrating other solutions with it.
Yeah.
So those are some of the key things. I think today, again, companies, when you say what would make a company choose this or that, remember, companies are still people. So at some companies, people can be dead set one way or another on what they want. We'll walk into a prospect, we have Dynamics NAV. They're like, well, we demand, we're only looking at cloud-based solutions. Okay. Or vice versa. We want nothing to do with the cloud. We can't use the cloud here. It could be an aerospace customer that sells to the military, and there are ITAR requirements or other security requirements that may limit what they can do in terms of working with the cloud. So we'll go into customers like that, and there's a clear decision that's been made. And what's great about Microsoft Dynamics, NAV or Business Central, is both are available, right? we fit both models.
All right, so, let's see here. Let's pick out a good question here. Mr. Dynamics. All right, so what are some of your favorite bells and whistles?
Favorite bells and whistles. So I would say over the past several years, several releases that have come out, one of probably the most major improvement that's been made is around accessibility to the system. Meaning you can access NAV, or now Business Central, on your Windows computer or your Surface or whatever you have, a Dell or HP, whatever you're running. You can also run it on a tablet. So iPad, any Android device running on running an app, or the web client. So no matter where you are, if you have access to a computer with the internet,
You got it.
go to the internet, go to your browser, open it up, secure, right? Enter your login name and password so it knows who you are and what your role is and what your security is. But you can access it from anywhere,
Yeah.
anytime, through any device.
Right.
So I think that's been one of the biggest changes in terms of usability and efficiency, is because people don't have to, people I think used to use that as an excuse to not get into the system, to use it, right? I'm out on the road, I can't connect
Yeah.
where I'm at, or my VPN isn't working, or whatever the excuse is, right?
Dog ate the computer.
Talking
Yeah.
to the computer.
So today, it's, you have all these device options, and I can connect as Ken. I can be sitting at my office, have NAV open on my desktop. I have my tablet sitting next to me, and in my pocket is my phone, and I'm running nav on all of them. It recognizes me as one user, it knows who I am through all those devices, right? And I have full functionality across them. I can enter orders, I can post transactions, run reports on any of those devices. So that's where I think the biggest leap is, to the point where now we're seeing more and more NAV and Business Central customers deploying the built-in CRM module. So NAV Business Central has built-in CRM functionality. Historically, it's always been there, but people didn't use it because salespeople
Right.
would refuse to get in. It was too big of a pain in the butt to get in, right? Now, what's your excuse?
Yeah.
It's there.
Access
Record
it
your
if you want.
contact, update, add your contact, record your opportunity, enter your interactions with your customers. Yeah, it's so easy to do.
Right.
So that's one of them. I think the second one, there's a ton of just little built-in things that
Yeah.
make it easy.
Over the years.
One of my personal favorites is one of the things called on the Roll Center. There's now a window called the Report Inbox. And what you can do with this Report Inbox is I can run, let's say I want to run an aged accounts receivable report or an inventory valuation report. Historically, what most systems, what most people have to do is you open up the report, you select, what date do you want to run it for, what format do you want, whatnot, and you then hit print. And you sit and you wait for that report to generate. Maybe it takes 30 seconds, maybe it takes 5 minutes, maybe it takes longer. And I sit and I wait while the report gets done. Now what you can do is you can, instead of running the report, you can hit schedule. And just hit OK, it will schedule it immediately. You continue working. In the meantime,
You don't have to worry
it's
about it.
running in the background on the server. So once it's done, it pops up on my roll center in bold to say, hey, you've got this new report sitting here. Now I just open it up, it's a PDF, or I can save it as other formats if I want, but I think it saves it by default as a PDF. So think, maybe it's 11:45. I've got a bunch of sales reports I want to run, or month-end reports and accounting I want to run, but I want to go to lunch. So 11:45, I can go in, I can kick off all these reports to schedule at noon. I come back from lunch at 1 o'clock,
Done.
there's all my reports sitting right there.
It's a beautiful thing.
So I wonder if that counts as working through your lunch and,
I think you're entitled.
Yeah.
Hey, just, you're working smart.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Exactly.
Productivity's there.
Yeah. So,
Oh, that's too funny.
yeah, you can also set those too on a recurring schedule. So you want to run that report every Monday at noon, set it on a recurring schedule. Or once a month, on the 3rd of the month, set it once. Set it and forget it.
That's
You
great.
know what that's from?
I have no idea, no.
I don't even know if it's from.
Set it and forget
Is that
it?
from, with
The
Michael Douglas?
infomercial? No, the
No.
infomercial where he cooks stuff in the pot. And he
The crock
sets
pot
the
thing?
timer, you just set it and forget it,
I
and then you come
remember,
back and
I
it's
remember.
a whole meal cooked. Really?
Wow.
Oh, you guys are young.
I'm not up at 3
You
a.m.
guys are young. I think you're young.
Never, 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 never.
All right, so what about add-on solutions or extensions? What are some of your favorite, or what do you see as necessary?
So add-ons and extensions, right, so, well, first of all, background a little bit, let's backtrack, right, one step. So historically for Dynamics NAV, there's well over, I don't know what the number is, 2,000 NAV partners worldwide.
Yeah.
A lot of those partners are like us. They're centered around implementing NAV and understanding business and how to implement software and support customers running it. But there's a whole nother set of partners that are what are called ISV partners, independent software vendor partners, or we sometimes just call add-on partners. And they specifically develop apps or add-ons for NAV. And they are built into NAV, so once you install them into NAV, it looks and feels like NAV. No, a user could never tell that something was an app because it's kind of built in, right? An extension is kind of the new add-on or app. The difference is an extension is designed in such a way that it does not touch the standard business logic delivered by Microsoft. Instead, it extends or sits around the standard source code so that effectively what you can do is you can add some extensions to your Business Central or Nav environment. Uninstall the extension, upgrade, reinstall the extension. Like that, within minutes.
Great.
So upgrades become easier. In the old add-on environment, add-ons were developed in a way a lot of times where those add-ons were impacting the standard structure of the database.
Yeah.
So what they would do is release an upgrade toolkit with each release. And we would have a developer, we still do upgrades, have a developer merge those objects together, right? So there was some work involved there. You needed a development resource to complete an upgrade. Now, everything wasn't rebuilt. You didn't have to rebuild or recreate all your enhancements or modifications.
Right.
Most of them came right over. 90-some% would come right over. But every once in a while, there was some sort of conflict. Developer would have to identify the conflict and upgrade it. So now with extensions, it's easier. It's like a phone app. You have an app on your phone, you can uninstall it,
Yep.
and then you can reinstall the app,
Yep.
right? So pretty sure if you have an iPhone, there's probably something when you do updates, it probably does something like that, where it
Mhm.
temporarily uninstalls some apps, maybe,
Probably, yeah.
updates it and then reinstalls everything.
Yeah.
Right, who knows, but I'll bet there's something like that. So that's an extension. So same idea. It's a software company building an app specifically for any of your Business Central, just two different development approaches. So back to your question, which was what are my favorite ones?
Yeah.
Some necessary ones, I guess.
So I would say I don't have a favorite.
What?
I don't play favorites.
You're killing this podcast.
So the reason I don't have favorites is because we do not want to go into a prospect or potential customer of NAV or Business Central and be suggesting what they need without even understanding their business or their requirements. So when we go in, it's a clean slate. Our assumption is you need standard base Dynamics NAV or Business Central, right? Then what we'll do is, as we're learning about their business, understanding the requirements, we'll maybe identify that an extension or an add-on is needed. And then we'll go ahead and maybe show how that works, or talk about that, or explain what the pricing is, right, if we need to.
Yeah.
But I would say I really don't have any that I think are mandatory for anyone to run. It depends on each situation, and then we kind of go from there.
So what you're saying is you want some ISVs to send some gifts over. You can walk in and then
when I come
business.
back for the next podcast,
Exactly.
maybe I'll have a different answer to this question.
Exactly.
All right.
Oh, too funny. All right, so why would someone choose to work with one Microsoft partner over another one? Are there really differences or what?
There are, right? So the biggest difference is going to be, I think most partners are going to understand the solution, how it works, to a pretty good level. This is how Dynamics works. Let me show you how to create an item, how to create an order. Let me show you, right? They'll understand the product, be able to install it and get it going. I think what a customer may sometimes undervalue is the partner's understanding of business, right? To be able to listen to what their requirements are, understand what the priorities are, what those key functions are that company needs to be successful, and understand that, and then build that into a solution that works to demonstrate, here's how, if you're looking to accomplish A, B, and C, this is how NAV should be configured to give you what you need, right? And because there are a lot of options, there's a lot of different ways that you can set up your inventory locations. There's different ways you can utilize dimensions for financial reporting. There's right, a ton of different strategies for identifying how you set up items. What is an item? What units of measure should be used? How do you want to manage pricing and discounts, right? All of those types of things. How do you need to manage inventory and plan for production or purchasing? All those things are hugely important, and I think there are a lot of partners out there. Maybe not all of them have the resources that have business experience, are MBAs, CPAs, those types of things, or just the experience implementing software across 15 years or 10 years or 20 years,
Yeah.
who have seen 50 or 100 different businesses do it and know what works and what doesn't. So I think that's a huge factor for a company to try to make sure that they have the right partner. I mean, you could probably purchase Dynamics NAV or Business Central
Yeah.
from hundreds of places, hundreds of people. But having a partner, right? We use the word partner, or a partner that understands your business and is going to help you not only get it deployed, but then also continue to improve how that gets used as your business grows. You need more functionality. So,
And we're not just any partner, we're a gold partner.
gold certified partner.
That's right.
That's right.
So
So it's good to hear that experience actually still plays a part with
Yeah.
choosing a partner. It really means something.
Yeah, and gold certified partner, by the way, I think it is important. There's a few things that you need to be gold certified. One is you need a minimum amount of license revenue with Microsoft.
Yeah.
So what that tells you is that if a company is gold certified, like Solution Systems, it tells a company that the Solution Systems has done this many times. We're maintaining a certain level of revenue. Two, we have X percentage of our customers on annual enhancement renewals. So our customers are upgrading. They're not implementing it and then dropping it. They're staying active on the enhancement plan and continuing to upgrade. So I think that shows that they're getting value out of the software with us, or any gold certified partner. And thirdly, we need references. So you need a number of references every year to renew as a gold partner. And these are customer verified case studies or references that say that we completed a project successfully. So we can't just go out there, you can't just go out there and sell a bunch of software and not be successful in implementing it, right? To have a good reference anyway.
Yeah.
So I think, there is a bar set with the gold certification on partners. And it can make a difference in terms of defining, is this customer, really do this a lot?
Yeah.
Right? This is something this is their bread and butter, so to speak.
Right, it almost validates partners as being good,
Right.
and for lack of better term.
And it's not really a walk in the park to get your gold certification either. I mean, it's what, top 2% of partners out there. So I mean, it's not like it's necessarily an easy.
Right. Yeah, it's a small number of customers that have that.
It's unusual.
Yeah. So let's say I'm a company just beginning to use Nav. What is a tip you would give to a typical end user?
Hire solution systems.
Right. I mean, besides for that, which, by the way, you can just call us at 847-590-3000.
Shameless plug.
By far, the number one thing of any user is you need a basic level of training to use the software effectively. When we implement NAV historically or Business Central, we always do a series of key user training up front. And then we'll even do end user training. So when we get close to deployment, we'll train some end users on how to use the system. And a lot of times that we have documentation that we'll develop with our customer to walk through what are the steps to process the transaction. And that's all well and good. But guess what? 5 years later, half of those people might be gone. And they've been replaced with all new people. As a general rule, companies do not invest in training those new employees like they should. And what happens is we get calls in our support department here, and it's, hi, it's Tom, it's Sue. I'm new here, how do I print a check?
Yeah.
Right? Well, okay, click on payment journals. Where's payment journals, right? So they have no training. They don't know how to navigate through the system. They don't know the basic functions of ribbons or how to print a document, what some of those things are, like scheduling a report. So what we've created is a Solution Systems University, right, with a 101 class. It's about 4 to 5 hours of sessions that cover the basics of Nav. So no matter what type of user you are, you can sit down and watch these, I don't know how many, 20, 30 sessions,
Yeah.
maybe, broken down into 5 to 10 minute segments. How do I open Nav? How do I search?
Right.
How do I create a new record? How do I print a document? Right?
What is a role center?
How can I filter my data? How can I export to Excel? All those things, you have to know the lay of the land, right? To be successful in using any software, really. And what we see again and again is again, people not investing in that training, mainly because they feel like probably they don't have anyone internally that can do it. So if we go ahead and provide these videos to them, they can subscribe to those videos. Every time they hire a new employee, watch these videos. And we've even had customers that have been using the software for years. They still watch those videos and go, wow,
Yeah.
I didn't know what I didn't know.
Yeah.
Right?
Very
So basic level of training to be successful, no matter what your role is by far my number one recommendation.
All right, so that's just a general recommendation. So what would be, I don't know, a tip for, say, a controller or an accounting manager that's just starting to use Nav? What's one tip to make them successful? Besides training.
I have a few. I mean, one of them is learn how to use the built-in account schedules. So account schedules are basically the tool built within NAV, Business Central, that are used to do balance sheets, income statements, cash flow statements, whatever column layouts you want, month to date, year to date, actual to budget comparison. All those are built in. We still see companies, people, users taking data out of NAV, dumping it into Excel, and then preparing reports. There's just no need to do it. It's all built in. So take the time to learn that, learn how account schedules work. First tip.
So what about those salespeople that don't like to log in?
Log in.
Yeah.
Access to data everywhere.
You know, for salespeople, again, I would say, you know, one, get some basic training, but two, you have to define a core set of functionality of what are you expected to do in the system, right? A lot of times we see that's vague. It's what are the things that need to be captured in there, or what are the things you need? And then maybe not for you, Mr. Salesman, but for your IT administrator, that salesperson should have a role center created that's super simple. Because generally there's only a few things. You need customers, contacts, sales quotes, orders, right?
Right.
Interactions or to-dos. It's a very small list of things that you probably need access to. So you want to make sure that your company's taking the time to create a real simple, stripped down role center so that it's easy to use. And that way I think you'll get more adaptability.
Right.
Not too bad, not too bad. All right, one more. I want you to think a good tip would be for somebody. Let's just go with, how about the inventory / or warehouse manager, I guess?
Let's go with the inventory manager.
Okay.
How about that? So an inventory manager, right? Let's say someone who's responsible for maintaining inventory, right? I need to make sure I have enough inventory here to ship to our customers, but we don't have unlimited capital or space to invest in having a ton of inventory of every item available, right? So there's a balance there, and you have to find that balance of how much should we have on hand. So my tip to someone who's in inventory is to utilize some of the built-in planning functions within NAV and Business Central. There's a planning worksheet that you can use if you're a manufacturer. If you have bill of materials and need to plan for sub-assemblies and raw materials. There's a requisition worksheet, which is similar if you just need to purchase an item that you then sell. Right? Both of these worksheets are designed so that the system can create suggestions for you and tell you what you should make or buy. My tip is start slowly, because how you set up your item will dictate what the system tells you to do. And if you're not careful, if you don't have your items set up properly, you could end up either purchasing way more than you really need or not as much as you really need. So you want to start with that automation of MRP or planning within the system for maybe a small subset of items. Make sure then monitor that, make sure it's working, and then slowly roll that out to more and more items so that you're manually making those decisions on fewer and fewer.
A couple of years, that'll probably be before Tana's job, right?
Right, yeah, probably. So I guess artificial intelligence is really kind of getting really, I mean, there's a lot more kind of drive towards it, I guess. So do you think artificial intelligence will eventually be performing tasks such as this, or such as ordering or quality control?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if you've experienced it, but I recently experienced, I had called a company for customer service, and was led through by an automated voice, right?
Yeah.
What can I help you with? And you say a few key words. They say, I understand you're looking for help on ABC. Is this correct? Yes. And then they ask you more questions. So they're deciphering what you're saying, and they're leading you down some path to get you the answer you need. I think in that case, some are, I don't know if some are all artificial intelligence, but in that case, it definitely was. Just like
Chatbots.
yeah, right? So I think think about that from a customer service perspective, it's already there. The next level is I can enter my order number, I can enter a part number I want to buy, I can say a quantity if I'm on the phone. What's your item number? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
Okay. How many do you want to buy? 5. And at the end of my call, an order has been created in the ERP system, right? Yeah, I think it's just a matter of time. There'll be some growing pains,
Of course.
and not every application will be suitable for it,
Yeah.
but absolutely.
Yeah, I think that, I've read some things where they say that anything involving numbers will eventually have artificial intelligence. That's kind of
Yeah.
worrisome at one point.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, it could be. I mean, there's already, software out there where you can, feed in a bunch of values and it'll identify based on the value set that it sees, like check for an outlier or flag certain things
Yeah.
based on certain results.
yeah, I think the inventory thing is probably gonna be a natural progression, right, into
Yeah.
artificial intelligence. Whether the AI is just ordering by itself what it thinks you need. It's probably 99% of the time correct, until there's a one time where it's not. So,
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of trial and error along the way of companies that may over rely on it.
Yeah.
Think about a typical company that, we distribute, let's say, bottles of water, right? And in an average period, we sell 100,000 bottles of water a month. And then for some reason, for 2 months or 3 months in a row, we're ramping up and we're selling more. We're selling 200,000 bottles of water and then 300,000 bottles of water. Well, the question is, and I don't have an answer, I'm saying, what would a system suggest you order for that next month?
yeah, right. Or,
If it's looking at your weekly sales and it's seeing that ramp up curve,
yeah,
might it assume that the next month you're gonna sell 400,000?
Yeah.
And you need to purchase to meet that demand?
right.
I don't
If you
know.
only had a 2-month contract with the World Cup or something, and you're selling
Correct.
water, yeah,
Right.
it's over, and then what?
Or perhaps it's a seasonal item.
Yeah.
It's a new item that you just started selling, and there's gonna be a drop off until next spring.
Right.
So there are a lot of, and I'm sure that there will be logic and so on to handle that, address that type of stuff. But I could also see users or people over relying on it.
Of course, yeah.
Without verifying it, checking it.
Especially if it gets it right in the beginning, the first months or whatever.
Right.
You're just gonna trust it 100%.
You just hit the button and go and play
It's done.
golf.
Right. Well, that kind of brings us to something we did in one of our other podcasts where Tom disclosed a fear of robots. Will robots take over the world?
A fear of robots?
Haven't you ever seen the movie I, Robot?
Is this legit? I have not.
You never seen iRobot?
No.
Oh, I think it was made in 2004.
You should watch it.
Everything in that movie they pretty much nailed everything. Autonomous driving, robots with artificial intelligence. It's a Will
iRobot,
Smith.
huh?
Yeah, it's
Will Smith movie? It's intense.
It's dead on.
Does he get hung up in some sort of,
It's like a robot war.
issue that's coming after him?
Well, what happens is that robots basically figure out how to work together because, what's artificial intelligence, they learn 1,000 million times faster than we do. And they figure out how to take over.
I did see an X-Files episode
Oh, just like that?
where it's a gloomy picture of the world of
Yeah, robots, yeah.
robots taking over. Yeah.
It can be.
So no, I haven't seen iRobot, so you have a fear of robots, that's interesting. So will they take over the world?
What do you think?
Um,
Are we always going to be able to pull that plug?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I am a robot. And
I knew it!
the real Ken is locked in a box in his basement.
It's
So,
over.
yeah.
Look at Tom shaking.
Yeah.
Who's next?
Yeah, no, we'll see. I don't know. I just saw actually, in the news recently that they're starting to talk about, I don't know, rules, legislation,
Yeah.
whatever, around limits on artificial intelligence,
Mhm.
and,
Yeah.
and, you know, it's a little bit above my pay grade.
Yeah.
But there is talk about, yeah, putting some controls in place to prevent.
Well, Facebook actually had two robots talk to each other and realized that the English language was not adequate, or whatever the word is, and they created their own language because it was more efficient.
Wow.
Nobody was able to figure it out.
Yeah, so they definitely
They
plug
pulled
real
it
fast.
Then in Germany, there was this robot that kept on escaping and like would wander around into traffic. And eventually they pulled the plug on it, but it kept on doing it. And
And realized captivity was bad. It
Right.
learned captivity was bad on its own.
and they tried
They
to
want it out?
They want it out.
And so
No
they
matter
changed
what
the
they did to
code,
it.
and no matter what they did, it
Yeah.
kept on doing it.
Interesting.
So I'm just saying, you should look into this robot thing.
This is, yeah.
Yeah, I actually think that robots will be around way before the White Sox win a World Series.
Oh, yeah. I agree. I agree.
Touche.
But the Bears, so I guess what's your prediction? Who's going to win first? The Bears or the White Sox?
Well, it's very difficult being a White Sox fan in this world,
Right now.
you know, so maybe I need to create some robots that are White Sox fans.
Yeah.
Or would they learn,
Bats.
would they learn that it's better to be a Cubs
They
fan?
probably
Right.
would.
Trying to escape.
Probably, knowing my luck. Yeah, so White Sox are in a little bit of a rebuild right now.
Yeah.
Although, as of a couple days ago at least, they're over 500 since the All-Star break.
Oh, wow. That's pretty good.
And they did pretty good against the Red Sox.
And the
recently,
Yankees.
the
2 out of
Yankees.
3 against the Red Sox. I'm not
Yeah.
sure if they beat the Yankees 2 out of 3, but they played them tough. They should have won 2 out of 3, I think.
Right.
Yeah, no, they're starting to call up some of the younger players. Or the Bears, are the Bears going to win a Super Bowl for the White Sox when they win a series? Oof, that's a tough one.
That is a tough question. It really is.
I would say White Sox.
I would have to agree with you.
What?
Just because of, in the words of Stephen A. Smith, that bad man Aaron Rodgers is in our division.
Yeah, but now we got an even badder man in Khalil Mack, so
Yeah, we'll see.
we'll see what happens on Sunday, I guess.
I think, injuries happen in baseball, but in football, you can have a really good team. You lose your quarterback, or 2 key players, you're done.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you can still be good, but,
Pretty sure the Patriots only lost 4 games without Tom Brady. Matt Castle was their quarterback.
There's 5.
Just saying.
They didn't make the playoffs that year, so.
yeah, that's the exception that proves the rule.
Yeah.
Uh,
No.
But typically, yeah, you lose one key player, and the players get injured a lot in football. So that's my reason. It's very close. I think it's really close. I mean, the Bears could be right there, but with the injury factor in football, I'm going to go baseball.
All right.
I think in 4 years, the White Sox are going to be really good.
I think in 2 years,
I
the
think
White
it'd be
Sox are
good.
going to be really
Really good? Yeah.
competing for a playoff spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think 4 years.
Wild
I guess we got to
World
create like
Series
a
or
follow-up for this podcast then. 2 years from now.
2020 wild card team.
Yeah.
All right.
So is that 2021 World Series or bust?
Sure, let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. Thanks, everybody. Tune in next time. Actually, this is the season finale.
Yeah.
So next season will be season 3. We'll have more guests, more fun. I think we're going to upgrade the sound equipment and
Learn some more about Business Central since it's coming out here in the fall.
yeah, we want to thank Ken.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
And once Business Central's out in full force,
Do
be
it
happy to
again.
come back. Maybe we can throw a little web demo in there and
Yeah, absolutely.
show some stuff, huh?
Yeah,
Nice.
definitely.
Awesome. Go Bears.